Picture this. For 6 years, you're caught up in a criminal case. 6 years. But the one document that kicked the whole thing off, the arrest warrant, it's like a ghost. You've never seen it. Officials can't even agree if it's real. And get this, the paperwork itself seems to completely ignore the laws of time. It's a wild story, so let's get right into it.
And, this isn't some abstract legal theory. This is the actual reality for the person at the center of this story. In their own words, they said, "I am an ordinary person, but for 6 years, my life has been tied to a criminal case based on a warrant I have never seen." I mean, wow. Those words really they set the stage for this incredibly confusing journey through the justice system.
So, how in the world does something like this even happen? Well, we're going to break it down. We'll start at the beginning with that first arrest. Then we'll look at a huge contradiction from officials. We'll follow this bizarre paper trail, and you won't believe it, but we'll see how it all happened again. We'll also talk about the real human cost of all this, and then wrap up with some really big questions that this whole mess brings up. All right, let's rewind the clock. We're starting back in 2018. It all begins, like a lot of these situations do, with an arrest. So, someone is arrested by the police. Seems pretty straightforward, right? But there was a massive problem from the get-go. The one piece of paper that's supposed to authorize the whole thing, the warrant, was nowhere to be seen. It was never shown to them. Right from that very first moment, a fundamental piece of the legal puzzle was just missing.
So after being released, this person did exactly what you or I would do. They tried to find answers. They wanted to see this supposed warrant that had just thrown their life into chaos. But what they found wasn't clarity. Oh no. It was a complete wall of contradictions. They went to the two places that should have the exact same information: the police, who made the arrest, and the court, who supposedly issued the warrant. And the answers they got were, well, they were polar opposites. This is where things get just completely nuts. On one side, you've got the police repeatedly saying, yep, a valid warrant exists, it's the whole reason we have a case. But on the other side, the court is telling a completely different tale. They said, and not just once, that there was no warrant under this person's name or ID. And here's the real bombshell. That warrant number the police were using, it actually belonged to a totally different person in a separate drug case. I mean, you can't make this up. So with this massive contradiction just staring them in the face, the person started digging into whatever paperwork they could get their hands on. And this is where the story goes from just being confusing to being downright bizarre. Okay, let's try to follow this timeline because it makes no sense. The warrant document that eventually shows up is officially dated April 4th, 2018, okay? But the complaint, the official reason for a warrant to even exist, wasn't filed until 9 days later on April 13th. How do you have a warrant before the complaint? And if that wasn't weird enough, the document also says it was in effect back in October 2017, months before it was even supposedly written. It's like a time-traveling legal document. It's completely impossible. And believe me, the messed up timeline was just the tip of the iceberg. Over the years, different, conflicting versions of this warrant started popping up. Some of them were missing the official court stamps you'd expect to see. And remember the basics? Well, the data on the warrant, like the name and ID number, didn't even match the person who was arrested. The paper trail wasn't just flawed, it was falling apart at the seams. Now, you'd think an administrative mess this big would be a one-off thing, a freak accident in the system, right? Wrong. 3 years later, unbelievably, it happened all over again. So it's late 2021, and the very same person gets arrested again, this time for something completely different. And just like before, at the moment of the arrest, no warrant was shown. It's like déjà vu. The same critical legal step was just skipped. And, surprise, surprise, the paperwork was weird from the start. The person was actually arrested on November 22nd. But the official police report, it's dated for the next day, November 23rd. It's another one of those small details that just makes you go, something's not right here. But that one-day gap is nothing compared to this. 19 months. What is that, 19 months? Well, that's how long it took for the police to actually file their arrest report with the court. 1.5 years. For over 1.5 years, the court system that's supposed to be handling this case had zero official record that an arrest had even happened. The person just existed in this procedural black hole. It's easy to get lost in the messed up timelines and the faulty paperwork, but we have to remember, these aren't just clerical errors. They have a real and devastating impact on a person's life. This entire nightmare, starting from that very first arrest, has now been dragging on for more than 6 years. Think about that. For over 6 years, a life has been put on hold. We're talking lost income, professional opportunities that just vanish. You can't make long-term plans for your life. How could you? And then there's the constant stress, just this cloud of uncertainty hanging over your head every single day. And the craziest part, the original case has never actually gone to trial, but it's never been thrown out either. It just sits there, in limbo. And that's why this one-person story becomes so much bigger. It forces us to ask some really fundamental questions about the justice system itself, questions that should matter to all of us. First and foremost, how is it possible that a person can be arrested, have their whole life turned upside down, without ever seeing the one piece of paper that's supposed to make it all legal? And second, why is it acceptable for official documents, the very bedrock of a legal case, to be filled with so many mistakes, contradictions, and timelines that literally make no logical sense? And finally, the question that really gets to the heart of it all. Why can our system allow a case to just drift for years and years with no end in sight, leaving a human being trapped in a permanent state of uncertainty? This story isn't just about